There's no place that's better to engage in economic activity than Australia.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Albo World.
Well, if you've got a family trust, it is no longer going to be to any benefit to you and your family. So I apologise to everyone that I've ever recommended go and see your accountant and get it. Jesus, don't get run over. Get a family trust set up because the government just killed them.
The gentleman has basically said that family trusts are dead. They're not dead, there's definitely a place for family trusts. Hi guys, I'm here today to do some reactions to some of the most recent changes in the federal budget and what's being said online. So let's get stuck into it.
We all know how cooked housing is in Australia. We spend more subsidising property investors than we spend on social housing, homelessness and rent assistance combined. $12.3 billion. That's the combined cost of negative gearing capital gains tax discount this financial year. And yet we've got people sleeping in cars, people stuck renting forever, and people waiting years for public and social housing. Many Australians aspire to have one or two investment properties to get ahead, and for a lot of people, that's been a sensible way to invest their money. But when taxpayers are effectively helping big portfolio investors buy their 5th, 6th or 10th property, while so many Australians can't even secure one safe home, then the system is broken. And it's not just a vibe. Only 1% of taxpayers hold nearly a quarter of all property investment interests. So Senator Jackie Lambie and I asked the Parliamentary Budget Office to look at practical ways to wind back these concessions. A model to turn things around is to grandfather existing arrangements. If you already own investment properties, you shouldn't be punished for having followed the rules. But going forward, restrict negative gearing to one investment property, which the vast majority of investors only have one investment property. Thirdly, limit the capital gains tax discount to new properties only, so incentivising supply and taking away the argument that by removing these sorts of perks that the whole housing system is going to fall into a heap. Will this fix the housing crisis overnight? No, it won't. There are no silver bullets here, but it will definitely help because it starts changing the way that we view housing. I believe housing should be treated as a human right, not just as an investment vehicle. And right now, we're spending billions incentivising people to invest in housing while spending far less helping people actually live in housing. And I think that needs to change in 2026.
So what we've got here is David Pocock saying that the $12.3 billion is coming to come back into social housing by changing the negative gearing and capital gains tax rules. He's suggesting that obviously restricting the ability to have negatively geared property and also changing the 50% exemption on capital gains will in some way allow first homeowners to afford their first home. Well, what he's not getting is that by undertaking these measures, we are pitting first home buyers and property investors against one another because they are who will benefit out of these changes because they are allowing new builds to have tax benefits. So what are property investors going to do? They will change their strategy and they will look at new home builds for somewhere that they can make negatively geared investments. So don't get me wrong, this sector is an important sector, but it will be inflationary, it will push rents up, it will have an effect on the poor in our economy because rents will increase. The poor in our economy cannot afford rent increases. However, someone has to own the property that they're renting. And typically they're investors, and now they're taking away the benefits of those investments where investors will take a loss today for a future gain tomorrow. Hence why people negatively gear property. No one wants to negatively gear a property and lose money every year, year after year. The idea is that you negatively gear the property for a future capital gain where you have a win. They're taking away some of that win now, aren't they?
There's no place that's better to engage in economic activity than Australia. Today we're announcing that we'll increase the turnover threshold for existing small business 50% active asset CGT concession from $2 million to $10 million.
This now means that every one of the 2.7 million active small businesses in this country will have access to generous CGT concessions.
This comes on top of our extra tax cuts and making permanent our $20,000 instant asset write-off for small businesses. This budget, of course, delivers more tax cuts for every working Australian, a fair crack at buying your own home, an economy that works for Australians, for small business and for future generations.
So in this video, we have Anthony Albanese telling us that Australia is the best place in the world to do business. Well, at the moment, it shows that we are one of the highest tax nations in the world. And as a result, how can he possibly say that we are open for business and one of the best places in the world to do business? He calls it economic activity, because at the end of the day, it's not only business owners that are getting slugged here, it's property investors, it's share investors, it's anyone who is an investor in our economy, as well as small business owners, as well as first home buyers, as well as any other person who is investing in our economy. So we've got a situation where Albo has pitted first home buyers against investors. We've pitted small business against home buyers and share owners against property owners, and all different sorts of mischief that our illustrious leader has allowed to sneak through with these measures. There are unintended consequences. They will notice a much greater tax revenue than they have anticipated, and that means trouble for you and I. All of us in the Australian economy who are business owners and investors will pay for these measures, and will pay for them in much greater dollar value than they think that in their estimates, and that's for certain. So if you agree with me and you think that Albo is all smoke and mirrors because this 50% active asset turnover increase is just one measure out of 4 measures, and it's a turnover threshold, it's absolutely got nothing to do with the 50% that they took away in the budget. It's another measure completely. And so the smoke and mirrors are such that he's saying we're increasing this and we're doing this 5-fold, but the reality of life is we are still stuck without the 50% general exemption, and we are stuck with CPI. So this increase in turnover has nothing to do with that measure. It's a completely separate issue, and they are spruiking that they're the saviours because they've come in and swooped in and listened to public opinion and changed their original opinion. They haven't. It's smoke and mirrors. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Albo World. If you agree with my view on this, comment below. Let's have a serious chat about your thoughts in the comments.
Well, if you've got a family trust, it is no longer going to be to any benefit to you and your family. So I apologise to everyone that I've ever recommended go and see your accountant and get it. Jesus, don't get run over. Get a family trust set up, because the government just killed them, all of them. But one thing that I will say is that it is not law just yet. There's only been announced. It doesn't affect anyone until 1 July 2028, so you've got some time. And also what they want you to do is change over that family trust into a holding company that'll own the shares in your business. So there are ways around it, and I guess the biggest thing from this is that non-working spouses or people that were receiving trust distributions fully franked are no longer going to be applicable. So I guess what they've just done is they've just created some very highly paid administration roles. Maybe.
Okay, so in this situation, the gentleman has basically said that family trusts are dead. They're not dead. There's definitely a place for family trusts. And he's also said that all trusts are affected, and all trusts aren't affected in this respect. Fixed trusts and testamentary trusts are not affected by this legislation. The government did a backflip on the testamentary trusts only recently, which is fantastic news. So what you do find, though, is that a trust is now only beneficial where the people that are beneficiaries of that trust have an average tax rate of 30%. So that's not for everyone, because the 30% trust tax will not be refundable. So that means if you have an average tax rate under 30%, you will be paying more tax than you should be at your marginal tax rate. In addition to that, bucket companies will be facing double taxation on distribution to them. So there are serious consequences in regards to these trusts. And in light of the reactions we're seeing online, people are up in arms over this, and rightly so, they should be too. The government has taken a mandate that it didn't have to change some of the major ways Australians invest, and that is not right. If you agree or disagree, please make your comments below.
It's March 2026. You've just gone all in on a $2 million house property in Australia. You voted for Albanese. He said he wasn't going to do anything to negative gearing. Didn't mention anything about capital gains tax. You voted for him. So you've got your $2 million just spent on a house. Stamp duty. If it's in Victoria, you're up to 2.11. So you're up for 2,110,000. So you spent 2,110,000, and you voted for Albanese because he said he wasn't going to change anything. But he lied and he changed everything. And the property market crashes, goes down 20%. So you spent 2.1 million. So now all you can get for the house is 1.6 million. You're not going to sell it, but then you lose your job and you have to sell it. And so you've just lost $500,000. You've just lost your life savings. You know why you lost your life savings? Because Albanese fucking lied.
So here we've got Dave Hughes making comment in regards to the budget and the significant changes that that's going to have on our investors. Back in 1985, the Labor government at the time scrapped negative gearing. As a result, rents soared under the inflationary pressures, and in 1987, they actually reversed that decision and brought negative gearing back. In New Zealand, they did the exact same in 2021. They got rid of negative gearing. Rent soared under inflationary pressure, and as a result, we saw 2023 they backflipped on that strategy and got rid of the legislation. So we're seeing history repeat itself again here in Australia, and the current Labor government feel that this is a strategy that will work. However, this strategy typically pushes inflation, and the reason it does that, it makes people who have a negatively geared property think twice about their rents, because obviously they are losing tax refund, which would be your typical negatively geared loss. That tax refund would then go back into a loan, etc., and that refund would give them some interest savings, some benefit. They're not now getting that benefit, so they will typically increase their rents and will have that inflationary pressure. So the poor get poorer under this strategy. In addition to that, we have first home buyers being pitted against investors for new builds, because that's where the tax breaks are. So you would think that property investors are going to change their strategy and look to new builds, because they have the ability to claim negatively geared situations in the property space, and that is where the tax breaks are. Now, what they're suggesting is that will incentivise people to increase supply, but at the end of the day, we only have so much supply in this country, and we're experiencing supply chain shortages. We're experiencing delays in that labour market because of immigration policy and other policies that we have in our system at the moment. We cannot get enough tradesmen. We cannot get people to build. So supply is hindered. But what the big issue is demand. What you're going to find is by pitting property investors against first home buyers, the demand for that product is going to skyrocket. What does that do? Increases prices, which is inflationary again. So what we're going to find is a number of these measures economically will be inflationary within the economy. In addition to that, it will force owners of these types of investments to hold assets longer. So by holding assets longer, there'll be less sales and resales. And what does that do? Again, it restricts supply and increases demand. So you find that as a result, we will have inflationary measures. So again, we have inflationary measures within the economy. And what does that do? When inflationary measures happen, we end up having a cost of living crisis, rents go up, poor people get poorer, rich people get richer, and the reverse effect of what the government feels will happen in the economy is bound to happen. Mark my words. If you would like to make a comment on this, please put your comments below and let's have a chat about these measures. Thank you.